Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're working on this car, and this is a Ford Escort RS 2000 by Matchbox from 1978. So this one was customized by someone into an Italian flag on wheels. I think it suits the car very badly, and also it's not original anymore, so we can do a custom job on this one. Now there we got the car. I'm going to do this a Rothmans rally version, and yeah, so this is it from all sides. And now I'm going to drill this one apart. There are 3 rivets on this one, so a little more work than usual, but I think it went apart quite easily. And yeah, I'm going to make this Rothmans rally version, so I'm going to have to change a lot, including the front end. And I know that Sideways King 75 did the same a couple months ago now, but I really would like to point out that I already started this thing in November, so before he started it, so I didn't copy from him. And actually, I really kinda, it felt quite strange when he had his finished first, because I thought, oh no, now everyone is going to think that I copied from him, but I didn't. Please consider that. Now, this is the windshield. It's not fitting quite well, and yeah, I'm going to replace that one. And this is the body. Now, there we got the body stripped. I've already putted something on the front there and created the new bonnet lines. Now I'm going to remove the old fender flares because I'm going to make new ones on there, and I want to have a flat surface to start with because I think that's much easier. And I'm also going to file on the front there because that's different too, because this one has the fiberglass front end like the RS2000 had back then, but the RS2000 was not the car that they used to drive the rallies, so I'm going to make this one into the regular front end. And that actually requires quite a few modifications. You have to change the grille, you have to change the bonnet, you have to change the lights, you have to change the bumpers, you have to change a lot. It's even a little shorter, I think. So these are the racing seats I made. These are just those styrene and some putty and some work with the Dremel and glued together. And these are not finished yet. So there we got the new interior. And yeah, I've painted this with a very thick primer. And I think it looks quite good because if you look at a real rally car, they have no carpets in there or anything like that. Just a pure body shell, and those are always quite rounded, and they look quite they don't look very clean, so I think this should do. And I'm going to add in those racing seats along the prime as long as the primer is still wet, because I think that's just going to secure them enough, because no one will probably ever touch these racing seats again as long as the car stays assembled, so they don't need to hold up to a lot of stuff. And yeah, this should be right now. And yeah, so this is of course not all we're going to do to the interior. There will be a lot more. So basically it's a completely new interior. Now I'm going to make a little fire extinguisher out of these broken electrical part there. I'm just going to bend this wire on there so that it looks like the head of a fire extinguisher. I think this works quite well. It's very little effort, but it's just an extra detail you add to your model, and it makes it look much more professional. I really like those little details because the more details you put in, the more professional it looks. So of course this will all be painted in red later on. Then just cutting off those wires with a plier. You could also probably just use a very sharp scissors because those wires are quite soft actually. So I'm just going to hold this with the forceps so that I can paint these, and yeah, so now off to the red paint. So there we got it installed, and now I'm going to install some pedals in there. You have 3 pedals on a normal car, or at least in Europe, as long as you don't have automatic. And yeah, I also added a gear shift and a handbrake out of some wires. And now I'm going to make this little radio set so that they can communicate with someone. Don't know who they communicate with, but there must be a reason why in the olden days every rally car had this inside. I think they still got, but of course nowadays it's much smaller than back then, because everything was, or every technical stuff was bigger back then. I mean, we're talking about 1981. And just putting a piece of styrene on there and painting it up a little fancy, and that should do, because you're really not going to see that much of this. So just to know that it is there, and just painting it in afterwards. And there we got some more detail on there. I added some red painted masking tape as seat belts. I think this looks quite good, and it's just this sort of extra detail that makes the model look a lot more professional and a lot nicer. And I've also tried to make this as realistic as possible. On some stuff I wasn't quite sure, so I just guessed that, but I hope it will be very close. So here you got the pedals. As you can see, it's all not perfectly perfect, but you also need to consider that this is very small, and you're viewing this already quite magnified up, and in the end you're not going to see a lot of this one anyway. So now I'm adding the roll bar. I've just glued together some pieces of paperclip, and now I'm painting it in black. Actually, I would have preferred it to be in a different color, but the real thing had a black roll bar, so I'm painting that too. And you can see it's kind of vanishing there, so you can't see it very well anymore after it's painted in. Yeah, it's not the best option, but I mean, they made them black back in the day, and so do I, because I always try to make my customs as realistic as possible. So here we painted them up quickly, just a tiny piece missing there. And so that will be pretty much all that we did to the interior. So this is the new front grille. This is just some styrene were scratched in these lines with this needle there, and I think it looks like a grill, but there is still going to be added some lights and the Ford badge, because now it's looking like a Dodge Charger without anything on there. And I originally intended to use nail heads as front lights, but they ended up being way not only too big, because you can see it here, they just didn't look all that right. Maybe it's not visible too well on camera, but yeah, it really, I ended up using plastic for this. And I'm just painting the car in quickly. Of course, this is, I think, 4 or 5 times the original speed. And we're going to paint it, of course, white. So as you can see, I've glued part of the base to the body because I think this looks more like the real thing. Because as I said, the Matchbox one was an RS 2000 and this is a different one. And now we're adding the decals. I designed those myself and I actually felt quite stupid when I saw, because I designed these already in November for this project, and I felt quite stupid when in April everyone could buy them for €2 at Sideways King 75, and it took me hours to create these, but now I got a unique set of decals. And yeah, the printing didn't go out ideal because there was something wrong with the settings on the printer. And yeah, this is the instruction manual that I had of a 124 scale model, a plastic model kit that I'm still doing it. I've not finished it now, of this Escort. And now I'm going to apply the clear coat. That's very important because those decals are not shiny, so they look, and they also get a little more secured when you put on clear coat, so win-win. And now I did this new windshield. I've used the windshield of the Escort RS 2000 that I did a year ago, the green one, as a pattern, and then I used a heat gun to form a blister into the shape of this windshield, and I think it fits quite well. Because as I said, the transparency of this one was kind of distorted, and I've seen other people having the same problem with the same casting, but the one of the green RS 2000 fitted quite well, so I just copied that one. And the back window of the original transparency is actually right, so I'm going to cut that one out and use that one. And for the sides, I'm just putting in new blister pieces because also they don't fit very well too. I don't know why they did this. Maybe they made the mold on a Friday or something like that. And yeah, so there we got the windshield installed. I also added a little decal to there. And yeah, this is the front grille, as you can see, still without headlights. And I'm now applying number plate. It's the VLE 200 something X, and that's actually the car that Ari Vatanen drove back then in on the Lombard Rack Rally in England for the Rothmans Ford Rally team. And the original car is actually on display on the National Motor Museum in Bewley. That's in the south of England, and I've been there 2 years ago, and it's actually very nice. So if you have the chance, do visit it, because you can also see some of the original Top Gear cars there, and it really is a nice museum. So now I'm adding the new front lights. I made these out of some plastic pieces, as I said. And yeah, the back, I didn't paint the back in white, but they became like that because I cut them off with a hot knife. And I've also added those little spotlights, and I wanted to add some side mirrors using these yeah, what do you call this actually? Don't know. I only know what they are called in German. And yeah, but I ended up not doing this because they didn't hold on there very well, and yeah, I don't think they're that important, so I'm just going to leave them away. Now I'm adding green light wheels to this car, and yeah, those are not perfect fitting wheels to this one, but they're the best I could come up with, and I'm using this majorette axle because it has the same diameter but it is longer, and because the RS 2000 by Matchbox is already quite a big car. It's probably 155 scale or something like that instead of 164. It's already quite big, plus mine is now even wider because I've yeah, because it is wider because of the new fenders. So I'm going to need a longer axle than the original Greenlight axle. And those wheels are from the Wheel and Tire Pack Tokyo Talk. And yeah, I've bought these off Germany from a shop called Modell Autos Dresden. And yeah, the owner of the shop also has a channel where he does restorations like I do. So if you wanna see some of his customs, they are quite good actually. And he does them in German. So this is the finished result. I'm really happy with this one. I think it's one of my favorites so far. I really liked it. And this is a future project. This is a transit van, and I'm going to make this into a Rothmans rally team transit van. And then I'm going to hook up a trailer to it and put the Escort on there so that I have the full set. I know it's a Mark 1, but I couldn't find a Mark 2. This is actually a Siku casting, in case you're wondering, and I also already did a lot of modification to this one. Now here's what we started with, a quite ugly looking Escort RS 2000, not a very rare car, and this is what we ended up with. Quite a nice piece actually. It does have suspension. It's the suspension out of the BMW 3.0 that you saw in my last video. I mean, that was the donor car, and I used the suspension part out of that one to put into this one. And yeah, quite a nice car. I always liked rally cars, and I would really like to do a couple more rally cars in the future when I get the fitting casting. I'd like to do a lot of Group B rally cars if I can. I would, for example, really like to do a Ford Escort 200, no, a Ford RS 200, sorry, where you can take off the back and look at the engine. That would be a very nice project if I find a nice one of those RS 200s, sorry. And I would also like to do an Audi Quattro S1 one day, using a Matchbox Audi Quattro and shortening it and all that stuff. That would be a quite nice project too. But that's all just for the future, and for now I will leave you with this one. Tell me if you like it, tell me what you think about it, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Consider subscribing. If you would like to get rid of your old cars, you can of course send them to me. And now I'd like to say thanks for watching, and see you next time.